Loch Kelly, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Atlas. Great to be here with you.
It is an honor. You have created very powerful content, distilled the spirit and science very well.
Hmm.
It's one of the things that I'm extremely passionate about. So I'm very much honored to have this conversation together and also be able to share what you've distilled and also advance the mission of creating more love and abundance, unity on earth.
Yeah, beautiful. I'm with
Excellent.
you.
Yeah. And we'll have several conversational points throughout the show on effortless mindfulness, the direct path, the art and science of awakening, awake awareness. We'll go through a glimpse practice, and we will share some of the action items that Locke is currently offering, including his mobile meditation program, including his exceptional books and his YouTube channel, Instagram, Twitter. All those links will be in the bio below. Would love for you guys to check them out if this episode resonates. All right. So, man, right. I feel like the best place for us to start is the direct path.
Yeah.
And just the importance of it, what it is and the importance of it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a beautiful place to start because it is maybe what's the difference between the gradual path, which is the more common or well-known variety of meditation. So the premise that makes it the direct path is the hypothesis that the awakeness, the freedom, the love that we're seeking isn't something that's created or developed. It's already here within us and even as us.
Yeah.
So it's essentially who we've always been. It's just literally subtler, deeper, wider, higher, but more essential, so that with a direct approach, like a glimpse, we can shift kind of background to foreground. What's hidden comes into the foreground, and then it becomes more the ground of our being, from which becomes the new normal, the new operating system, which we then lose it and come back. So just to say that in my experience, the direct path is kind of a way to glimpse directly, but it's not instant enlightenment, meaning you don't stay there. It's small glimpses, many times repeated. So it's direct realization, but then gradual unfolding.
Yes. A core part of what I feel you shared there is to bring the background into the foreground is a really good way to put it. So let's talk about that more. So there's a sense of, we could say, I or beingness or presence before the name, the identity, the stories that is shared.
Mm-hmm.
And that we would like to bring that background into the foreground in a sense.
Yeah.
And then what what is the direct path of doing so is the question, right?
So I think this is one of the most important questions. And I'll start by saying that even within my particular approach, there's many doorways. So the idea is that people have different learning styles and they have different obstacles that keep us from recognizing and realizing this essence of our true nature or this awake consciousness. So there's not one way, and there's certainly not one tradition, but there are some simple principles that are similar. And there's a couple of, the two main ways I would say are what's called the resting method or the do nothing method,
Right.
which is kind of letting go and letting be. And some traditions like Zen call it shikantaza, which is just sitting. So the metaphor, which I love there, it's almost like a poem, is muddy water, let stand, becomes clear.
Right.
So there, it shows that in some ways it feels like a background foreground, but actually the water, the clarity is not in the background only, it's always everywhere.
Right.
It's just being obscured by the primacy of the denser consciousness. So when you sit and don't engage and rustle up the mud by active identification engagement, then it may settle. Now, that can be direct, but that also is actually one of the main practices of the gradual path, which means you sit that way for 3 years or 30 years or 3 lifetimes, and then it may settle enough to be able to live from it. Because when it clears, the next stage is, okay, so then it's clear, but you're sitting and you're not moving. So what happens when you recognize it? Then important to realize that's who I am. And then what's the relationship to the mud? So that you can get up, stand up, and begin to walk and create and relate without just saying, oh, I better go back and meditate again. I have to sit still, as if stillness or silence is the absence of sound or movement.
Right.
So that's one method, and a little bit about it. Then the other method is more of what I do, which is a little more of the inquiry method or the looking method or the unhooking of awareness, which is already identified or attached, and having it drop or open and immediately know itself or return home to the subtler dimension, which then recognizes that that's the ground or the source from which energy is actually made of it. So there's a interconnected feeling of unity or flow, where you're more the ocean of awareness arising as movement, energy, then as patterns of consciousness, thought, feeling, sensations, subpersonalities, and then a human body, still primarily awake consciousness. And that's the key, is to learn how to be 51% awake consciousness and then welcome everything else.
Right. And those two can also be very much like one with,
Yes.
yeah. I found,
And you can start with one.
right.
Yeah.
Right. Right. And this is great because it's important to share that what we're describing is what we feel like is the most direct way. And there's an incessant amount of movement, which is deeply conditioned by identity and separation and location and lack and all of these other things. And the the slowing down of those oscillations of thinking can bring us more inward. And that's why rest is just such a beautiful way to put it. Do nothing, inquire.
Mhm.
And through that process, that can lead us to feel whole
Mhm.
when we're doing nothing.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's so beautiful.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have to do anything to be
That's right.
perfect, to be the absolute, to be the highest possible. And that itself is peace. That's love,
Yeah.
right?
That's the freedom, the realization of the kind of okayness or essential well-being, which has a feeling of unity or interconnectedness and innocence, like that it's deeper than the trauma, it's deeper than the feelings of worthlessness and not good enough, and subtler, deeper meaning subtler and more essential, so that those other feelings are welcome to arise to you. So that's one of the simplest inquiries that I have is to shift from focusing on what's arising to find what is it arising to, what or who is this all arising to, pleasant or unpleasant. The traditional mindfulness is looking at the contents of consciousness, noticing it's coming and going, it's arising and passing. But then effortless mindfulness kind of begins by having awareness look back to itself, look back through the meditator to open to the field of already awake consciousness that's awake without our help, that then is arising as the aliveness, not being caught in what I call the witness protection program of being dissociated and looking from a detached, disembodied view, which can be a halfway point and can be very helpful transition, but just staying open and coming home to embodiment, and then open-heartedness, or kind of the fabric of love that feels there's no non-fear, non-worry, non-shame, to which fear, worry, or shame are welcome to arise and isn't spiritually bypassed. But now the psychological healing and the physical releasing of being kind of frozen and protective can begin to thaw out and be included.
Yes. Right. Yeah. I feel we're already, yeah, deeply diving into awake awareness, which is excellent. And um, the art and science, the practice, many glimpses repeatedly, and stabilization.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, the last bit you shared has also been deeply resonant, because there feels to be um, a spaciousness in the background that can be recognized, and then that can be brought into the foreground, and then that can feel like love for everything that is. And so then that sort of that duality collapses, but it can be a helpful duality at first. um, right, I found that to be also very powerful.
Yeah. And it then becomes a multi-dimensional reality, meaning that primarily there's a a pure awareness that's empty or void or infinite, and then there's a unity or love that's interconnected with everyone and everything, and then there's these unique waves of the ocean of awake consciousness, which are particular individuals that have personalities and then can see each other with integrity and respect and equality, almost naturally if you're looking through the eyes of the heart.
Yes. Nice. Yeah, and I've noticed that you also speak of it like a simultaneity, right? Being across all of those domains at the
Yeah.
same time, those dimensions.
Yeah.
And then that helps us be, as you've said, aware of distinction and unity simultaneously. Yeah. And that's very powerful because it's a very holistic perspective, because it takes into account the traditions of unity
Mhm.
and love, spaciousness, and yet at the same time it takes into account the beauty of the individuation,
Yeah.
and then seeing all um, from that makes it so that when individuations interact or engage, they're coming from that
Yeah.
unified love, and yet at the same time the unique expressiveness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the messiness of being human is just part of the grist for the, that isn't, doesn't have to take over, but it has to kind of detox or thaw out because of the conditioning and the, not only our own personal conditioning, but almost like ancestral, just passing on generational, cultural, that can begin to liberate, but the liberation often, as it moves out, takes over for a while, like anxiety, fear, worry, and then it's like, so that magic move of effortless mindfulness, once you've done a practice sitting still, to be able to unhook, or what I call unhook, but let go, and actually have awareness step back into that which is spacious and pervasive,
Yeah.
to be with what's arising from a more holistic view, loving self with a capital S, if we use that language, then whatever parts of us that are angry or fearful or traumatized are being held and welcomed,
Right.
as they throw a tantrum,
Right.
and we're not acting out from them, but we're not repressing and acting in. We're actually letting our full humanness, because we've discovered that the open-hearted awareness is the capacity to be fully human.
Yes. Nice. I'm so happy that we're on this healing thread.
Yeah.
So by recognizing this open-hearted spaciousness,
Mhm.
we can fearlessly and courageously, lovingly, spaciously be with anything,
That's right.
and all of our conditions. And it can be hard to look at many of the conditions.
Oh yeah.
Um, but in doing so, we love them into dissolution and integration and transmutation and in freedom, greater freedom.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah. And there seems to be nothing that I found really more powerful than that as another huge part of the direct path is
Yes,
that. Yeah.
exactly. If it comes back. So that's, the beauty of you, what you're saying, both the direct path and the healing. So discovering the awake consciousness, which is unhooked or detached, in order to be more unified and embodied, while remaining infinite and intimate.
Yeah, that's great. Infinite and intimate. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ah,
Yeah.
that's beautiful how important healing is on the direct path.
Yeah. so important for us and for everyone we engage with, just to realize when you hear someone's story, you can't believe it if those who they look like they have it all together or something, and they just start being honest, you're going like, oh my God, everyone is just carrying around all this stuff.
Right. And most recently, it's been very beautiful to recognize that those are each individual's treasures,
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
look at it their own time.
Mhm. Yeah.
So there's like no urgency. Uh, there's no need to generate a catalyst.
Right.
It's just timeless
Mhm.
for them to look at that unique treasure inside.
Yeah. Just to be able to show up for the unfolding. So not pushing the river, but not, kind of staying underwater too much, so that you see where and feel what's going on as whatever the next thing that's ready to come forth for, to be heard and met and loved up.
Yes. Yes. And it's actually it's a really beautiful way to share that the direct path can be both this very like powerful direct inquiry into the nature of reality and identity, and yet at the same time it can really be this like, hey, I feel a deep uh, trauma in my life that I would like to look at, and I don't necessarily know how to. And I would like your help in holding that open heart space while I do.
Yes.
And that's another way.
Yeah, it is. And, that part, as you say it beautifully, you kind of give a lot of space to that, because it can be with a friend, with a therapist, in a group that's a supportive group. But it is that kind of finding a safe, um, you know, same, but other person, other human being that you can feel listened to, and you can kind of get that out. So at some point, whether it's therapy or coaching or a good friend or two or three, if you need, as you go along, to tell that story. It's not to have those parts of you that have been hidden away, to let them be heard by another. And then ultimately, the one they're looking for is you. The one they're looking for is that you that's not you, that's bigger than you, that's essentially you, that has no self, that's a self, or whatever that is. That paradoxical
Right.
feeling of like, wait a minute, this isn't me, it's bigger than me. Oh, but it's the source of me. That's that feeling that can't be put into words. That's where a lot of direct path gets caught. It's like, oh, it's not, oh, I'm out of duality, I'm pure awareness. And now life is just a movie playing on the field of awareness, coming and going. It's like, okay, keep going, come on back, because it's not a movie, it's actually an ocean of life and connection, that you're in it. When you're in it, you still have that support that's bigger than you, and then you can be your unique personality, that's just the flavor of the wave.
Right. Hmm. Right. Another powerful way that I've seen be a common approach has been sort of using the mind to study the symbols of what I is,
Mhm.
and then anchoring in the body in that interconnected oceanic unity, rooted, earthed, basically.
Yeah.
Yes,
So say more about the symbols, like say more about the first part of that.
as
That
though,
mind understands the symbols. Yeah.
right, right. So there's like an endless possibility space of imagination and symbology,
Yeah.
and there's it's very much mirrored by the internet, let's say,
Right. Okay.
and it's a big lots of hay and very few needles,
Okay. Yeah.
right? And so by using the mind to look and find the needles
Hmm.
of what I is,
Yeah.
try and identify them, put them into um, maybe some notes or a distillation of sorts
Yeah.
across the ancient wisdom traditions, modern science, things like that,
Yeah. That's
and
right.
and then embody
Right.
it, which is more about the heart and the root, just as an example. So then everything can come, whew,
Yeah.
online like that. And it feels different when everything's online like that. That's been really recent
Uh-huh.
for
Yeah.
me, is coming more online like that. And sometimes it can show up a bit, a bit like primordial. It can show up a bit.
Yeah.
And that feels great too.
No, that's great. That's gotta have that juice, you know. You can't, that's one of these little side eddies of some of the spiritual maps that start to get people caught, is if, oh, I get it, you're not supposed to have any emotions. Okay. Oh, let me try that, and then it's like, no, 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 that don't do that. Maybe when you detach from over emotionality, you'll have freedom from it, and you'll be in a kind of observing, accepting place. But then when you come back, you're still open, and you start to, what I call, shake and bake. You kind of get this kind of fullness of juicy life. But what you're describing sounds like, yeah, as I was saying, there's different doorways and paths, like in Hinduism, the jhana path, which is the path of knowing or knowledge. Sometimes it's knowledge, but it's like you're looking to the, your consciousness is going from gross to very subtle to really, and then it just drops in from the mind in to with consciousness within, which is connected out. So that's that door, which is a great door. Yeah.
Right. It's really warm. It feels really good. Just
Yeah.
being together feels great.
Yeah.
This feels like a good time to explore a glimpse practice. As you were sharing, there's doors,
Yeah.
there's ways to access. We were talking about the direct path through all these different facets of the diamond, including healing or yana path.
Yeah.
So let's go.
Okay.
Yeah, let's do this.
Yeah. So it feels like there's two. If you don't mind, I'll do one now and one later that almost complements it.
Please.
Uh, so this one, okay, I'll start with kind of, we were at the second one, but I'll go back to the first one. So when we started, we said that often the mud that settles is kind of conditioning and kind of operating from important but more gross level, physical, emotional, mental. and missing. And those three, physical, mental, emotional, mental, form a self, a small self that is trying to survive as a separate human being, which is important since we are animals in the world and there are fast moving objects and things like that. So, but that overly dominant definition and training and conditioning can cover over what's already here behind, more open, subtler, non-physical, non-emotional, and non-thought based. So the little small self tends to orient by thought going to thought and creating this little thinker and doer and problem solver to try to be safe. So it's trying to, what's going on out there? Is there any problem out there? Is there any problem in here? What's going on out there? Is there any problem out here? So that problem solving function, as we get smarter and more successful, it actually gets stronger. So one of the main obstacles to people who really actually learn a lot and grow a lot is their strong problem solver ego center, their small self. So if that can relax, we might be able to feel kind of a more subtle, not sleepy and not thought-based, alert, awake consciousness that's more spacious and pervasive. So that's the premise, that's the kind of description. So here's the little inquiry that is being asked both to the problem solver initially, but actually is a invitation to the awake consciousness. So the inquiry is to look with, understand with thought, and then look with awareness to feel what's here now, just now, when there's no problem to solve. Just understanding the words and then not looking to thought, but letting the problem solver relax. And then feeling that, which is aware when there's no problem to solve. And then being aware of it. And then what's it like to rest as it, as this. And thoughts can move, but just not getting on the train. And then resting as this awareness. What's the relationship to vibration, sensation, thought, emotion, and the world? Without going back to create a problem solve. What if everything's included from this more spacious, alert, non-thought based, and yet flow, like a flow consciousness? It could move your hand, you could use thought, but then you could let your hand go and you could let go of thought and have clear peace of mind, and you could respond to something if you needed to in the world. So that's a little glimpse practice that goes through some of the stages of awakening from, awakening to, awakening as, and then awakening as being.
So good. I'm curious if this, you familiar with Papanka?
Papancha Sanasanka? Yeah.
Right.
Sanasanka, yeah.
So, and where papancha is very much this weaving or this mental fabrication, and and then this nibbana
Yeah,
is the cessation of the mental weaving or the fabrication.
yeah.
And so that has been such an instrumental part, I feel, also of this, as what you just described through this glimpse practice. What happens when we just slow down that fabrication and that mental proliferation about our sense of self and our identity and sense of others and the past and the future and all of that?
Hmm.
And then when we just rest and we rest and we relax back, it's just, and then I love how you said that there will be some arising, but it's not taking us out of that.
That's right. Yeah.
And then the more that we just feel that and then bring that into,
Yeah.
right, bring it in, bring that in. And then that is love.
And the unity with love. That's right. Yeah. So yeah, papancha sanasanka is conceptual proliferation, is from the Pali language, and one of the kind of linchpin sutras between, I think, uh, insight meditation or Theravada or gradual practice to direct practice, because it kind of gives one of the linchpins, as you were saying. And the thing is, even nirvana is not, um, as from the direct path, isn't eliminating, from more of a tantric direct path, it's not eliminating the thoughts. It's just that you don't get on the train and you don't have to orient to thought. That thoughts are like uh, mental sensations being observed, not by a thought-based I think therefore I am. That's the key, is it's the thinker more than the thoughts. The thoughts are not a problem. The brain actually, from neuroscience, doesn't stop. No matter how quiet you are, it's going to be active. But we have a habit of not only paying attention, but then forming a thinker. And uh, from there, whereas when you're in a flow state, it's higher consciousness and you can respond faster without orienting to thought, without creating an ego center.
Mm.
So that's the feeling. And then it feels like there's no thoughts, but they're actually kind of gone into the background. So one of the examples I use, I ask people, like, if you bring your awareness to the bottom of your left foot right now and just feel the nerve endings and all that sensation that's there, like, so, if you can feel that, yeah.
Mhm.
So a minute ago, it was in the background. But if you had a habit, which pain often, chronic pain will give you that habit. But if you just started paying attention to sensations in my left foot, how are you doing today? My left foot's fine. And my big toe is a little better than yesterday, but my other toes are not so good. But then you'd be, whereas if you just let the sensation in your right foot and the mental sensations in your head go into the background. And then the key is awareness of awareness. So instead of awareness of thought, which then creates thought going to thought, you unhook awareness of thought, which is the first mindful move of awareness of thoughts coming and going. So now you're aware of that. That's half step. Now be aware of awareness. And then rest is awareness. And then as that awareness, notice the arising and the interconnection and the unity with sensation, thought, feeling, and the world. So there's kind of a awareness behind you, within you, in front of you, and aliveness behind you, within you, in front of you. But where you're aware from is no longer either the small self in the middle of your head, nor a mindful witness that's watching contents. You've kind of discovered, kind of dropped open and included this new open mind, open heart to infinite, intimate, feeling of being. So that description, that sounds like, oh, well, that sounded a little complicated. Well, you know what? It's about 6 moves. It's not that complicated. It's really not. It's new. It's unique. It's like a little weird. You got to go, what do you mean? Awareness, then awareness is aware of itself. Then it's like, okay, that I don't know any of that. That's true. You don't know yet, but it's fairly simple. It's not easy. It takes what it takes, but it's available, it's learnable, it's teachable. It's almost a necessity at this point in our evolution and just human development. Yeah.
Perhaps let's see if this way of describing also resonates. You said that there will be another glimpse practice that we'll do. So is describing the obsessions with identity and all stories can sort of be, at least from I've also understood it, seem like a Barbie house. And that the relaxation of the story and of the identity is sort of the ability to begin seeing through all eyes simultaneously, or seeing as the whole itself. Being that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then it was seen that the stories and identity of the Barbie house was beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And it served typically as the drill sergeant of awakening, suffering.
Mm-hmm.
And then from this realization, one can then recognize that the way that, like you described, flow consciousness, that one can be that and live from that and express as that, and then that can hold space for all of the other Barbie houses.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I hadn't used, I must admit, I hadn't used Barbie houses as one of my main images, but that's good. So, one of the unique things that, having come from being at the same time training as a kind of consciousness meditation person and a psychotherapist, is kind of bringing those two worlds together and then adding neuroscience and other things. But so currently the internal understanding is that this awake consciousness, when it comes back, and then that problem solver isn't the center, the ego isn't the center, the self isn't the center, but it's not like there's nobody home. It's not an empty Barbie house. It's not an empty, the actual ego that was trying to be me, that was trying to solve problems, is an ego function that was trying to be an ego identity. So it doesn't need to be killed, it doesn't need to be gotten rid of. It's not that it is relatively, it's relatively real. It's ultimately not real. There isn't any solid separate self there, but it's functionally can be part of the team. So once you realize that all the characters in the house are parts of us, the part that the worker bee part, the judging, even the critic and the judge are all trying to find love. They're trying to help. They're just confused and they're burdened with these kind of ignorances or misinformation. But they have energetic value. They have life, and they can be, we're kind of multiple sub-personalities but the key is who's aware of them has changed radically. So that changes, but then we come back, as you say, the house is still here. We don't have to keep acting like, no, there's no me. I go to the grocery store and things end up in my cart and there's no person named Locke. There's just, which I've heard. And I'm like, what is it in your cart? Is it things you tend to like, or is it all cat food and you don't have a cat? It's like, if you don't unify, then you're kind of dissociated or spiritually bypassed. So finding a way to understand and to feel, all right, what is happening here? So this subpersonality or parts-based psychology seems to go very well, because then you can start to feel anxious and go, all right, where am I feeling anxious? Oh, I'm feeling it in my throat. All right, well, where is it located? Is it in my head? No, just like right here. All right, can I step back and be aware of that anxious part of me? And then say, oh, part of me is anxious. Okay. And is there part of me that's not anxious? Yeah, there's part of me that's excited about what's happening. And there's part of me that is fearful. And there's part of me that's like, it's all going to be all right. So you are aware of these parts of you, then that one part doesn't, possess you, take you over as if I am anxious. I need to try not to be anxious. I better go meditate and not be anxious. Like, okay, we'll just step out in a direct way, be that which isn't anxious, and notice this isn't anxious. And now don't make it spiritualize it away. Just like, okay, stop being anxious because I'm truly the non-anxious awareness. Then come back and say, who's anxious? What part of you is anxious? What are you anxious about? So it's almost like being with inner children. So then they tell a little story because they've been holding it and they're trying to, tell the truth. And if we can then start to meet that and listen and be with, then they just relax. They start to go like, all right, well, nobody's listening to me. And I was like, okay, I hear you that nobody's listening. Well, nobody's listening to me. Okay, I'm here listening, hearing you say no one's listening. And they're like, all right, so you're listening. It's okay. So it starts to be this relationship with those parts, even the rageful parts, the panicky,
Right.
the hateful, are just like, they're just have something to say. They were hurt, or they were,
Right.
they need to be heard.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Right. It's really powerful to have non-resistance to the Barbie house, to have healing to the Barbie house, and then that is what then unwinds those conditions and contractions. I was doing some yard work today, and I was noticing resistance to the yard work. Oh, there could be a more rich expression of the universe right now through this vehicle than yard work. And then there was the relaxation of that resistance, and that was all that needed to happen in order for this to become the yard work itself.
Yeah.
And that was peace.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's the process. Once you have access, which is why the direct path, I feel, can be done, certainly in the midst of doing everything else and growing up. But once you have access to that, then when you get gripped by something like a resistant part that's like, I should, like a spiritual ego, I should be doing yard work in a spiritual way that makes me feel. And then you just go like, all right, well, that's an opinion. Thank you for sharing. Yeah.
Right. Ah, yes. Oh, great. Is this good time for the second
Sure. Yeah.
glimpse? Excellent.
So this one is, I'll do a little story because there's a little neuroscience in it, but so in the first neuroscientist that studied meditation, a guy named Herbert Benson, who wrote some books. He was a Harvard professor. So he went over to Tibet in the end of a 3-year retreat with a big group of Tibetan monks. And he brought all these, they had like these suitcases and huge containers to bring all the equipment over there. They did this EEG on the monks, and that, which is like this bathing cap with little nodules on it. It's the way they measure it. So he sets up and he starts talking to the young monks who are pretty much in their advanced stage of the last part of their 3-year retreat. And he says, okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to take this cap with these nodules and we're going to measure your meditation. We're going to put it on your head. And they all start laughing. And then he's like, the head monk is like, no, please respect these Western scientists. They've come from far away. It's like, okay. So when we measure your meditation, then they start laughing. And then finally they ask, what are you laughing about? Is that, well, when we experience meditation, we experience it here and here in the heart space. We experience this as empty, as gone. So they were saying, in terms of our experience, you may be able to measure it there, but that's not where it's happening. It's happening. We've dropped from head to heart mind, bodhicitta. So this meditation, I kind of picked up on that, and it's called dropping from head to heart space. So the premise from this direct practice approach is that you don't look down like you would watching your breath from your head using your attention to your chest or your belly, that literally you have awareness itself as identified with thought, unhook and decenter, and then feel as if your awareness is aware of your jaw and your smile directly from within, direct perception. Then feel as if your awareness drops into your throat and neck, and then drops into your body, and then behind your heart space into your heart space. So you're aware of your heart space from your heart space. So that's the description. So now that's just to give you a sense, so you don't have to listen too much to my words. You can just kind of feel it. So the sense is that I'm talking not to you, the ego or the meditator or the intentional one who does things well. I'm talking to you, the awake consciousness, which is identified with thought, and you can move yourself down because you're aware from everywhere already. So this is the premise. You don't have to feel it or know it or believe it, but try it. Let's see what happens. Yeah. So just feel that sense of seeing and hearing that goes to the center of your head, to feel that sense of identification or normal sense of seeing consciousness, hearing consciousness, thinking consciousness. Just find that location of where are you hearing from, where do you see from, where are you thinking? And then just notice the premise that awareness is what thoughts are made of, and awareness is identified or attached to those thoughts, and awareness can simply unhook and step back into more open primary space. And then from that openness, awareness can actually feel your body directly from within. So it drops from head to your smile and your jaw, and see whether you can feel this shift. So you're feeling your jaw and smile directly from within, And then feel like a globe of invisible awareness, or as if the center is dissolving, you feel dropped into your throat and your neck. Just feel that aliveness, space, and awareness, direct perception. And then feel as if awareness can move itself and drop below your neck into your upper body. And just feel your body as if perhaps for the first time directly from within the awareness within your body from which your body is made. Just drop, open, drop below and behind your emotional heart until you find this kind of safe heart space, this heart mind or this, and then go deep like into a river and then into a space within the atoms so that you're aware of your heart space, you're aware from your heart space, you're aware as your heart space. So it can even kind of open up back through the middle of your body and start to become aware back behind you of the awareness that has you back. So surrender that globe of awareness back at the speed of awareness until it discovers the awareness that's already aware. And like an ocean of awareness that becomes dancing aliveness, feel that awareness is equally spacious and then pervasive as your body. And then feel uniquely as if you're almost looking out of the eyes of your heart. So your eyes are like periscopes receiving information, goes down to your heart mind, and then interconnected with everything and everyone without projecting, without analyzing, just being, seeing, dropped, open, and including everything, connected to kind of a boundless heart that connects to your whole body, top to bottom, but doesn't relocate in your head, stays dropped and open. So see what that feels like. And, certainly you can try it now and then, but see if you can kind of try it when you're taking a walk sometime, like drop and then just walk and just feel the nature, or just simply, do an activity that feels like you can stay dropped open behind you, kind of in a panoramic way, and then receiving with your eyes opening. Open in this wisdom mind, this it has discrimination, but not judgment in its negative judgment. Discriminate.
Gorgeous. It's powerful to use the word soma or somatic in contrast to the mind, because it feels so much like it's
here.
Yeah. Right. And from here, and then that, right.
Fullness of it. Yeah. It's like that.
Yeah. Yes.
Kind of the chi, when it's more like chi, then Kundalini kind of goes up the channel, but this kind of opens like the wings of the heart, kind of has the same, but it doesn't stay too tight.
Yeah.
Opens that up, but it opens this up too. So that you have
right. Oh, that's great. Oh, that's great. So there's like a wings of the heart, and then there also feels to be a rooting, an earthing.
Right. Rooting from the dantian through the back of the spine, like almost sometimes through the leg, but sometimes not even through the leg, almost like your spine goes in the ground.
Yes.
just like, and that's the earth, the power source. And then you can be aware of all that, because that's the area that has a lot of repressed
Yes.
life force, sexuality,
Right.
hunger, trauma, power. So you need
Right.
the infinite, and then you need the open-hearted to go down. Try to
Yes.
just go right to the belly chakra, the root chakra. It's tough work, because it's stronger than any ego. It's gonna blast you out. So finding this resource, then you find its power, because it wants to be liberated too. It wants to do its natural thing about power and sexuality and hunger, and it doesn't want to be confused, and wants to be life force, natural.
Right. I've also recently been feeling like the breath itself,
Mm.
rather than being in
Yeah,
symbols and concepts, very shallow breath, that there's like a rooted, heartfelt, somatic
yeah,
sourcefulness to the breath, to feeling that oceanicness and waveness.
yeah,
um and a powerful, for me, and I've seen this is a very powerful one, um down here,
hmm
to have, as we unlock the fearlessness and the courage to look.
yeah,
One of the powerful ones is the relation of this
mhm,
to all.
yeah,
Right. So its self image is one of the most subtle ones, let's say, to look at and investigate and transmute any lack, separation,
yeah,
desire to be seen, validated,
yeah,
unworthiness.
yeah. That feeling of, the heart is the center, but it has to go down and up. Like, often people feel the ground of being, like right here at the belt line. It's almost and that's kind of the connection between in and out. So it's not so much of a chakra or a energy center. It's like literally the inside and out are the same. The world and me are connected
Mhm.
right here, like right. And then there's more energetic stuff going on, but that's a place to rest the ground quality. And then I ask people, usually by doing something, go out and we come in, and then it's like, well, how do you feel? And someone will say grounded. And I said, well, where do you feel grounded? Like, and they often go here or everywhere. And I say, well, what's the ground made of? And they go, what's made of the ground? No. Is it like made of earth? And they go like, no, not earth. Like what? I don't know. It's really grounded. It's really safe. It's really okay. Like never before. It's me. It's like, oh, it's made of awareness. It's made of nothing, but not nothing, like, oh, awake nothing. It's made of the infinite that's here.
Right.
So that's the thing. It sounds like, I mean, I hope people are getting this. If you haven't gotten it, it's not that weird. It's not that far foreign and far away. It really isn't. It's learnable. It definitely is learnable. Um, it's just subtle. Like, you'll make your own words to it. The words, you know, or the pointers that we're describing from our experience are one way to kind of get a sense. Oh, okay, I'm in the territory a little bit. Is it a little like this? It's not like that. But then finding a door and a direct way to have that awareness be the knowing and the knower of itself, and then of energy, and then of your body. most people have known it. They, in fact, that flow consciousness I often use, I say, what do you do in your free time that you love? And then people are like, I walk in the woods, I garden, I play with animals, I play with children, I surf, I dance, I paint, I say, well, what if you did that in order to get out of yourself and into a more interconnected field called awake consciousness? Like, it's not about the thing or the activity, that's the door. What if you didn't focus on the hill you're climbing and getting to the top and looking out over at the sky? What if you then looked out the sky, got that feeling, and then felt back who's experiencing this? And then what if you could access that any place, anytime? Because the door, you already do it. In fact, you're compelled to do it, and you call it fun.
Right. Nice.
Yeah. But you don't know that you know it. You think it's about, the person who plays music can find it, the other person who goes surfing, like the person who plays music may not get it when they're surfing, the person who, because that's not their door. It's not about surfing or music. It's about something that allows you to drop into that, out of the ego, into the interconnected field that's subtle and knowing and highly functional, that can
Yes,
do activities,
totally.
isn't just sitting still, but
Yeah,
has the stillness to it.
right.
Stillness, yeah.
Right. As though it brings the realization of stillness into all movement in a simultaneity.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Well, just beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so beautiful. I mean, that first question resonates again, like, what is the direct practice? And, is it, how do you do it? And that's what I've been like about, like, what is it and how do you do it? And then how do you share it? How do other people get it? Because the water's so good. It's like, the water's great, come on in. Because when you taste it, it's just like, oh my God, so many people say, I can't believe this has been here all along and nobody ever showed me how. Or, oh, now I remember how I naturally experienced it, but I didn't know that's what it was.
Right. Right. And there's access points which can feel like pre in some ways pre 18 months
Uh-huh.
of age, that baby like innocence. uh, Another one can feel like the saturation of God's love
Mhm.
being omnipresent.
Yeah.
um so perhaps a sage like wisdom,
Mhm.
um perhaps a bit of like reptilian or primordial chimp like playfulness and groundedness, and and that, yeah, and to have this available as a many faceted access points to
Mhm.
the diamond that's right here,
Yeah.
always
Yeah.
right here. um it's gold.
Yeah.
It's gold.
Yeah, the awareness based knowing is what's just coming to me. So we were, talking about that term I use, awake awareness. It just means that it's not attention. It's not uh, I am aware of something. It's a awareness that's already awake and alert. So it's alert without using thought, because it was alert in the 18-month-old baby, and it's alert post, using thought, and in a flow consciousness, it's alert and functional. And then the implicit memory can just be a program that is
Yes.
used as needed,
Yes.
but that's the new operating system
Nice.
possible. It's awareness based, primacy of awareness, not thought. And thought is made of awareness. So we're not getting rid of thought. Thought is useful. Our hands are useful. Our emotions are useful.
Right.
And where are we operating from? And you described each of those facets, the ape-like one, and the love, and each one has the awareness, because you've shifted into the awareness-based knowing, and then the aliveness will come out in different expressions, right?
Right. I love that. So open, spacious,
Mm-hmm.
and
Pervasive.
then pervasive, that a lot, and then that alive expressiveness
Mhm.
through. And I love how you brought flow,
Yeah.
where we're whatever is that activity that is sought after is just the cessation of the identification
Right.
and stories, because you, it's dissolved into the very isness of what is
Yeah.
and um
In a very highly functional way. Now,
yeah. Yeah, because you're still so good. I mean, Steph Curry is shooting and he's not a separate person. He he that is, it's the very three-pointer happening
yes.
itself. And the violinist or the gardener or the hiker or whatever the activity is that is and it's scientific as well, which I
Yes.
wanted
Yeah.
to just bring to recognition as well, which we're, at least, let's see if this is aligned with you as well, that it seems to be the cessation of the default mode network and the activation of the central executive network, the flow network,
Yeah.
modulated by the salience network.
Yeah. It's interesting because there's um, I was part of a research project at NYU with Zoran Josipovic is the scientist. Um, and what he considers what it is the balance of the default mode network and the task mode network are both simultaneously on. So what it seems to be, at least from this theory, that we have two alternating networks that alternate about every 20 seconds. They look out, and then 20 seconds they look in. So in terms of meditation, so certainly that in terms of distraction, everyone knows that. But when you try to focus on your breath, which is a task, about 20 seconds in, if you start to really look at it, your mind will wander. Well, what is it? It's because you're not concentrating? No, because the network just alternated. Now it's looking out. Now it looks in to daydream or to thought. And then you have to, 20 seconds later, you'll say, oh, that's right, I was meditating, bring it back. And here's the interesting thing. When you do one pointed meditation, focus on your breath, you repress the default mode network and you just put on the task mode.
Mm.
So create a kind of calm, but it's a repressed calm. So you're kind of comfortably numb, calm, and then it can't last when you try to function, because you can't function from just external because you have no creativity. So default mode has creativity. It has kind of an inner life to it. So what we did, he had a group of us who are able to do this more Buddhist non-dual, which is equally balancing outside and inside, or task mode and internal. And what it showed is that instead of alternating, the networks were both on at the same time.
Right.
So then what happens is when you feel that they're on, you feel this evenness or this continuousness of unity.
Yes.
You know, this sense that, oh, I'm aware of what I'm thinking and I'm aware of the world, and they're both kind of the same. They're both have this
Right.
connection, and they're very soft and they're very kind of happy and flowing.
So perhaps a way to express it is that there's a tremendous amount of our day-to-day intelligence that is in the weaving or the fabricating, which is an excessiveness, let's say, compulsiveness in the rumination default mode, and that the direct path or the inquiry into inner kingdom of experience, that is the toggling inward into perhaps the concentration, the that central executive network's ability to focus, and that through that process then we can target what is the subject, what is the background, what is the nature of this, and then finally, upon sort of recognition, we can then have that very much that between those two both lit up,
Mhm.
and there's a equanimity, there's a flowness.
That's
So I'm no longer competing to kind of calm down the
right.
Barbie house.
That's right.
um
Yeah. Because if you get lost in the default mode network, you can be in daydream and past memories and flooded by trauma and worry and triggered. And if you're, so a lot of people go into work mode and become workaholics, because then you're just avoiding the default mode network by
right.
tasks over and over again. And even some of the, the phone is going down the rabbit hole
Yes.
outside because you're avoiding the inner
Yes.
world. And
Exactly.
so the feeling of when you balance the two, and when you're aware from open-hearted awareness, is you're not aware from your attentional system. You're actually feel like you're aware from the field,
Yes.
interconnected with the object, like it's over there, but there's some connection to it through this ocean of awareness, and I'm aware from here to the from everywhere. I'm not aware like a flashlight.
Right.
Attentional system uses a flashlight. My mindful witness uses like a floodlight to watch thoughts, feelings, sensations. This is like a ocean
Yes.
connection that is has a panoramic feel. So even it's
Love
never
this.
just connected there. It's always connected.
I love this. This is so good. I've also shared how there's an obsession with the devices,
Yeah.
and they can be so helpful for us to recognize what's happening, which is the obsession on the object.
Yes.
And then we just trace back to, oh well, there's a perception happening, and then, well, what is the perceiver, what's the subject itself, what are other subjects, and through that like inquiry process, which I think the social dilemma was a great catalyst
Yes.
to see that.
That's right.
And then like you described, there's like this witness version, there's the flashlight version, the observer version of the arisings and passings, and then there's this collapsing of that into there's a field.
There's a field that's aware. And the weird thing is, this kind of trips people out when they hear, and your body and is arising in the field. So you're not it's not coming from you going that way. It's like it's everywhere, and your body's like a wave in the ocean. And so I'll do what. So you can use your attentional system, which everyone's pretty good at, and bring your attention to an object, and then just leave it there, and let your attentional system like be, okay, that system is doing that. Now, have awareness, turn around, unhook, and be aware of the space between you and feel the space between you and the object. And now have awareness, feel back through that which is above your shoulders until it feels the awareness that has your back. And now if you're doing anything, you're resting back as that awareness, which then discovers that there's a field of awareness that's already effortlessly mindful, effortlessly aware of your body and the object. And that's just been happening all along, but we've been trying to concentrate, trying to focus, trying to get the default mode to cooperate. And meanwhile, there's a bigger system available. So that move scientifically hasn't quite caught on, but I feel like I want to make that like the attentional scientists get that, like for people with ADD, ADHD, that I've taught a lot of people individually how to focus from the embodied, open-hearted field, because it's easier to focus from the flow. And I think it can become more just normal.
There's the birth of from the holistic into the contracted, that is then seen to be contracted through inquiry, released back into the whole. And that seems to be a great mechanism for this intelligence to fall asleep, wake up, play with itself endlessly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, so it's that getting used to just recognizing, realizing, familiarizing. The Tibetan word for meditation is familiarize. So once you recognize, you realize, just familiarize, then lose it. No big surprise. Just re-recognize.
Right.
It's my little,
I love that.
Small glimpses.
Right. Familiarize. If
No,
forgot, no big.
lose it. No big surprise. Just re-recognize.
Lose it. No big surprise. Just recognize. Right. 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 Yeah. Beautiful, Loch. So nice. Thank you.
Yes. So welcome. Very good to connect with you and geek out with you and
Right.
go deep. Go deep and let other people kind of hear a conversation between us that should share that, just us being us, talking about what we love, what we experience, and trying to imperfectly articulate and communicate with each other. And hopefully others can hear a little bit of that and be inspired to give it a try.
Yes. Yes. And I found a lot of love here between us. It feels really beautiful.
Thank you, Alex.
And I feel like it's been successfully emanated through the conversation, and that there are an awesome amount of ways to engage if you guys would like. I mean, first, we would love to thank Loch for coming on the show. Thank everybody for watching also. And we would love to hear from you. So if you guys want to drop a comment below and let us know what resonated, you guys can always like the video and share the video if it resonated. That's a powerful way to continue spreading this. You can subscribe to our channel. You can also subscribe to Loch's channel. His YouTube will be in the bio. You can find a lot of great free content there. Also on his Instagram and Twitter, those links will be in the bio. You can find all of his books on his website. We'll have that link down there as well. I highly recommend The Way of Effortless Mindfulness and also Shift into Freedom. Just powerful reads, direct, loving. You can feel the love in the books. And also you can find the affiliate link to Effortless Mindfulness, to the mobile meditation, and give that a go. I've been playing around with it, and it's very direct. What Loch shared with us through the glimpse practices is just dived into even more deeply and regularly. So give that a go, check that out. And anything else, Loch?
No, I think that's it. You know, I look forward to meeting people and just to invite people to give this direct path a try. It's so beautiful. There's many different ways. There's other teachers, don't feel like there's only one way. Keep trying, because I find that people are like, I don't know. No. Oh, whoa.
Whoa.
Just stay with it. Keep trying a different door. Try this door. Try that door.
Right.
Then don't try any. Don't try at all.
Right.
Hopefully, you'll be in the soup. You'll be in the
Yes.
in it,
Yes.
and it'll find you because it's already here. That's the main thing. It's already within you. It's already who you are. It's just a little covered over, and we're finding out how to drop or open, let go, turn over. But what is it that lets go, and what is it that it lets go into? And then what is it that includes everything that exploration is possible, and just really quite extraordinary.
Yeah. And then what does that recognition bring forth into our world? How much more love, peace, unity, prosperity, abundance for all is possible? It's all we know it is. We know it is, but we like to play the game of we are separate from these other people and that we would like more for ourselves and that whole game. And but the pie can grow for everybody from a place of unity and love. And we know that that's where it's all heading.
Yeah, this is not an individual, go to a cave or a monastery. This is literally, let's awaken together in this world and live, and then make responses and compassionate activity that flows naturally from this clear seeing and courageous motivation. Yeah. So
yes. Excellent. And I feel powerful with a continued exploration with Loch and the Effortless Mindfulness Institute, as well as offerings. So I'm really looking forward to that and just cross-pollinating our networks, and super excited for that. Let's go ahead and wrap the recording, and then you and I just for a moment can stay together, Loch. Okay.
thank you.
All right. Thanks, everyone. We love you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.